B-29 dropped something white. Watanabe Aki. Oh, the B-29 dropped something white, said someone, and I looked up through the window to see a plane and something falling from it. Just then, a terrible pain, as if I had been struck by a leather whip.
The pillar of smoke rose rapidly. Koto Toshifumi. A giant pillar of smoke rose rapidly into the sky, creating a thundercloud that piled on itself as it spread. Within its billows, orange, red, blue sparks shot in all directions like streak lightning. As this bizarre configuration expanded, it shaped itself into a mushroom.
They wanted water. Takakura Aki. Black, black rain. Huge drops. People with injuries and burns. The ones still living craned their faces to the sky and opened their mouths wide to catch the drops. Hot bodies, so very hot, like balls of fire. They wanted water.
Sea of fire in all directions. Matsumoto Masao. My mother, younger sister, younger brother and I were on a streetcar from Funoiri bound for Yokogawa, just as the streetcar was leaving the Tokaichi stop. Everything turned completely black. I had no idea what was happening. Inside the streetcar was chaos and panic, pushing and shoving. Cries of "let me out" and "open the door." When it got lighter, we forced our way out. Everywhere we turned was a sea of fire, a red hot hell.
I don't care if I die, just give me water. Sato Yasuko. Water, 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 water please. Voices reverberated through the brick building. The faces of the junior high school boys and girls lined up on the floor all looked the same. They were blown up like balloons, their eyes narrowed to slit.
I'm sorry, I cannot save you. Kato Yoshinori. I could not rescue the children trapped under the schoolhouse being engulfed in flames. One little girl was almost out. I could have placed my cheek next to hers and pulled her clear, except for the arm pinned under a pillar. I told them in my heart, "You'll be safe from harm soon," and placed my hands together in prayer.
Teacher, help! Matsumura Chieko. From a gap in the pile of school building rubble, a student reached his hand and right arm out and yelled for help at the top of his lungs. Around him, I could hear other students moaning. I tried to help, but I couldn't budge the collapsed mortar frames by myself. I can still hear them crying, "Teacher, help!" I can hardly bear it.
Rising up, clutching my sister and me. Kanichika Mamoru. Our house collapsed, completely burying my father, my 2-year-old sister and me. I don't know how much time passed. As my mother watched, a selection of roof tiles began to rattle and move. As they parted, my father rose, clutching my sister and me under his arm.
Human charcoal. Kihara Toshiko. My eyes were caught by a fire-reddened streetcar stopped at Tenmacho. Inside the car and strewn outside were people actually burned to charcoal. Human charcoal.
Chased by the raging, devouring flames. Nagamine Tadayoshi. The stream of people was so dense, they could not push through and break free. Corpses lay along the escape route, but I don't know how many because the crowds were coming.
Screaming her child's name from the bridge. Sunimoto Suiko. The dead in this area were mobilized students. The riverbank and the river itself were full of dead children about the same height, 13 or 14 years old. Looking like daikon radishes, they floated down the stream, slipping under the surface and bobbing up. A mother was screaming the name of her child.
Bound for the Ninoshima Emergency Relief Station, Shimizu Masaaki. Victims were packed onto trucks and brought to the piers at Ujino. Though they were bound for the Ninoshima Emergency Relief Station, most died before they reached the piers. The piles of corpses grew as I watched. The ones carried onto the boats still had breath, some chance of survival.
Corpses piled like lumber. Kono Kyono. On the circular flower bed in front of the entrance to the Red Cross Hospital, corpses of first and second year junior high students had been piled on each other like lumber. They had no sign of injury or burn. Their name tags read, 2nd Hiroshima June.
I cremated my eldest daughter myself, Ishimuro Tamaki. I cremated my daughter Naoko, 3 years old, myself. I wept and wept, tears without end. Wait for me, I will follow you. I put my hands together in prayer. As Naoko burned, the oils of her body began to ooze out. A huge amount. What a healthy child. I couldn't stand to watch. I was losing my mind. I could not believe it was happening.
Glass fragments buried in her head. Haga Junko. Assuming the posture of a child lying in her mother's lap to have her ears cleaned was my friend. But it was our teacher extracting glass fragments from her head with tweezers. I laid each piece in a petri dish on the desk to the small tinkle of glass on glass.
Relief station in a bamboo grove, Kojiri Tsutomu. I went to Hiroshima with my grandparents to clean up their relative's house. For some days I saw the devastation with my grandfather telling me what was going on.
I wept to think I would never be able to leave the house again. Harada Midori. My hair began to fall out in September. It came out in clumps, and I cried in fear and helplessness. When I got completely bald down to the eyebrows, I wept to think I would never be able to leave the house again. My father thought we should try a senburi, medicinal herb, infusion, which was supposed to help hair grow. I applied it every day, and about 6 months later, I began to get downy hair. I was so happy I wept.
Looking for a watch with a black leather band, Fukamachi Dukuo. Assuming he had been exposed near the hypocenter, I searched for my father by looking for a watch with a black leather band. My baby sister, just 1 year old, rode on my back, breathing lightly, and was standing the blazing summer sun. I never found my father.
Giving birth. Chiku Kyono. In the midst of all the horror came a joyous event, the birth of a child. My mother did everything possible to help. I hope with all my heart that the baby grew up healthily and is living a happy life.
So cool, so delicious. Hagawa Yoshihisa. At the sight of a cluster of people, I walked up and was amazed to see a working water pump. Water was gushing out. By the grace of God, there was clear water for people to pump into each other's hands. However, it contained pieces of sooty grit. People waited for these to drift down to their palms, then sipped the clean water on top. They exclaimed, "So cool, so delicious," as they talked about the horrendous situation in the city.
Stars were beautiful. Sasaki Sumi. My father gathered charred tin sheeting and broken planks and built us a shack over the burnt ruins of his company. One plant's tall smokestack remained standing, and it scarred us at night, but the stars glittered all around the scary smokestack and were so beautiful.